Not that kind of Christian here. Reading again from my novella Bomber, Chapter 4 Escapee. Just to fill you in from Chapter 3, Mike has parachuted out of the burning Lancaster. He's fallen through the trees outside this enclosed camp, and he's now in touch with, or at least he has found, an escapee from the camp. Light was breaking through the canopy above them. The wet smell of leaf matter on which they both lay seemed fresh and clean as Mike opened his eyes. He blinked, taking a moment to orientate himself. At first he was confused. He had no memory of even falling asleep. For a moment he thought he was back in the barrack room at Grasmere, where the rough blankets rubbed his skin. He thought he could hear the coke stove crackling to life as daylight crept in through a chink in the blackout curtains. He rose slightly, trying to pull them closed. Making this unconscious movement, he felt a weight on his right arm, like somebody was laying on it. He tried to turn over. He moved and shuffled, but still he felt pinned. He could hear the shallow breathing as the slanting light had now broken through the canopy, so it revealed a man in a broad striped uniform. His head rested on his shoulder, and the upper part of his torso lay against the flank of Mike's chest, still covered by the leather flying jacket. The figure was not moving. Mike looked at the sallow face. The high cheekbones stood out, eyelids covered eyes sunken deep into bony sockets. The nose looked as if it had been broken. An unshaven chin stuck out at an awkward angle, making it appear the man's jaw may have been dislocated. His brow was ridged, and his left cheek bore a scar that made it look like it may have been split open with a razor. His scalp was visible, hairless and covered with welts, with dark scabs. He looked like he'd been beaten. The striped tunic was stained with dark, dried blood. The wood was soundless, save for the cawing of crows in the distance and the sound of a hushed breeze that hardly moved the firs in their upright majesty, towering above both Tailgunner Mike and the man. The escaped prisoner, whom he was now wondering if he could gently shake to wakefulness, or would the battered figure cry out at such a touch on his body. Mike hesitated to touch him, seeing the skeletal ribs under the cotton jacket and detecting that he was at least breathing. He thought whatever had beaten him had done so with method and purpose. Partly healed bruises showed on one of the thin, exposed forearms that led to a smashed right hand. At least one finger was torn out of its socket, leaving a congealed stump at its base. How could he wake this man to endure such pain? Mike knew he must. Those who saw his parachute would still be looking to find this person. The Germans called it Terrorflieger or terror flyer. Mike heard stories of aircrew run through with pitchforks when German civilians had reached them first. Gently he moved the sleeping figure at his shoulders, cupping his hand ready to cover his mouth, with its split lips showing the moment he cried out. Although weakened by hunger and impeded by numerous physical injuries, thankfully the beaten figure opened his eyes without making a sound. The airman looked into those blue eyes, and something deeply human registered within him. He thought of Catholic churches and the image of a broken, crucified, tortured Christ on a wooden cross. Now that he was, not that he was even a religious man, and he was certainly no Holy Joe or Bible-thumping Billy Sunday, suffering made him want to help, and he was a creature suffering dreadfully in so many ways. For a moment, the man's pupils looked like tiny pinpricks. The early morning light had streamed down through the branches. Mike was worried that the pupils showed no signs of dilating. Had the man received a massive blow to the head? Could even his skull have been fractured? Mike cradled the thin turkey neck in his hands, watching the Adam's apple as it swallowed. The cracked lips beneath them, beneath a bent nose, and a long silence ensued as Mike inclined his ear towards his first whisper, straining to catch any semblance of words. Wasser! Stretched out in a muffled moan. Then again, etwas Wasser, bitte. Mike shook his head. He knew the man was asking for water. His blemished skin was tight and paper-thin. He must have not drunk or eaten in days. Mustering what little German he had picked up from somebody he knew who worked in RAF signals, Mike stage whispered, Tut mir leid, Kumpel, kein Wasser, aber müssen wir hier, aber wir müssen von hier vid. Sorry, chum, no water, but we have to move from here. Not only did he hope that his halting German was right, but also he might understand any reply the man gave. Ja, ich werde es versuchen, aber. Mike got the yes, but what was the rest? Then, as the man pointed towards the gusset of his striped and filthy trousers, tied up with string around his skeleton waist, revealing the bony outline of his pelvis, the penny began to drop. The man pointed again and said, Kranke bastard. Mike got the bastards bit. But what was clanker, or crank? Congealed blood and pus covered the crotch of his trousers. The man had some kind of wound, or maybe this was something his jailers had inflicted on him. As he realized this, Mike watched the man point to a pink triangle sewn onto the breast pocket of his uniform. It was then that his companion said the single word, homosexual. And that's where I'll leave this first part of this chapter now.